Hello, namaskar, Didi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing? So welcome, Anita Didi, and welcome all of you to this talks titled Unusual Paths, Extraordinary Lives. And one little incident about an extraordinary life I want to tell you all about before we start, and as you're setting into the room, is imagine this heavily pregnant woman of 9 months, in her final stages of her about to birth a child, has to go out there in New York City and interview the thespian Shabana Azmi. And she finishes the interview with grit and grace, and then her water breaks. And that's our Anita Didi in her role as a broadcaster, a very bold one at that. And then she is surprised when she has her son in the hospital, and Shabana sends her a bouquet of roses saying, "This interview I will never forget." And I think that's the impact Anita Didi has on most people, that the first meeting is something everyone recalls vividly, and thereafter, all the interactions. Welcome again, Anita Didi. So
Thank you, Madhu.
setting, thank you, Didi. So setting, the pace and the cadence of our interview today, rather our conversation, is, I remember this quote from by John Updike, and he said that the true New Yorker believes that people living anywhere else to be in some sense kidding. So, did you feel like that when you were in New York? Did somehow, did New York, in a sense, work for you as an inspiration? Of course, you have said often that you have always created from your immediate atmosphere, your immediate environment. So, did, in some manner, New York become your choreographic grid in content and in form? Over to you, Didi.
I think, Madhu, you've got to imagine me as a 21-year-old going straight from Madras to New York. So I didn't really go straight to New York. It was good that I went from the south of India to the southern part of the US, which was New Orleans. So south to south, there was a kind of a gentleness about New Orleans that allowed me to somehow slowly slip into the American way of life. Of course, New Orleans is also not America. It's a very, very different city.
Yes.
So 2 years later, after my master's, I did move to New York. So I was sort of used to an American way of life, the student life. But New York City hits you. I mean, it hits you with its sensations, with its stench, with its smell, with its people, with its color, with its clamor. So here I was, stepping out into Grand Central Station with the teeming people and thinking, God, this is just a ready-made set. It's like a designer's dream. Because you look up at this enormous dome at Grand Central Station and it's filled with, at night, it lights up like stars. It's so beautiful. But of course, you are, as a newcomer, looking up all the time because everything is so tall and so, vertical. I remember in the height of winter, I wanted to be very Indian, so I wore a silk sari with boots and leg warmers. And I was walking from Grand Central Station because I was too hesitant to call a taxi. I was watching all these people stepping out on the pavement and going, taxi! And, in louder and louder and whistling and all that. And the yellow taxis would just screech to a halt. And I tried to timidly lift my hand and the taxi would come, somebody would jump right in front of me. I mean, they were like rude, I'm
Yes.
sorry, you're too late, you're too slow. So I remember just thinking back on it, thinking, God, it's like choreography in fast motion, slow motion. And I'm trudging to Asia Society. New York had delivered a stunning winter snowstorm. So it was so beautiful. Park Avenue was one straight grid, and the cars were whizzing by and I was slowly trudging, freezing, had the most unflattering coat. I guess that was all my student budget would allow. And I remember
Right.
walking and going to the Asia Society ladies' room and just quickly sort of taking off my leg warmers and everything to meet Beati Gordon. Beati Gordon was then the dance presenter, and she had presented Yamini Krishnamurthy. She loved Sanjukta Panigrahi. She was the first one to bring Pakistani Qawwalis. So I had a letter of introduction, and I, had gone to meet her. And she made it possible for me to come and watch a lot of performances at Asia Society. Growing up in South India, we never had a chance to watch the Pakistani Qawwals, to watch Iranian singers, to watch people from Lebanon. We never had that kind of chance. That New York City just attracted everybody. And as I said, it was a set designer's dream. I think that I was ready for it. I was ready with all my pores in a 360-degree kind of a way, where I wanted eyes at the back of my head. And I wanted to walk and walk and walk just the streets of the city. I remember leaving 25 minutes before an appointment so I could walk to it, go into the restroom, sort of freshen up, and then go in there. Because in India, we don't walk, we don't have pavements. So I remember just wanting to absorb the flavor of that city. And even the pace of your stride, the pacing was just so different from the way we walk in India. You stride in New York. You don't make eye contact with anybody in New York. You don't look up in New York, because that gives you away that you're not a New Yorker. I learned how to hold my wine glass for the first time in New York, how to hold it right. But yeah, I've had the most amazing experiences. I remember in television, Madhu, when I had to do a lot of live broadcasts, I would be holding the mic. I would be at Lincoln Center, where they had that famous fountain, and people are walking up and down. And I would ask the camera person, how's the frame? And he said, yeah, it's fine, we can go. And I said, who's behind me? And he said, somebody. And I would look around, and I said, that somebody was not part of the design. It wasn't fitting in. I would go and say, would it be really possible for you to just move here, please, madam or sir? Because I wanted the frame with the fountain. I just wanted it to be in a certain way. And I think looking back, again, that's like a choreographer's eye. You're staging it. You're staging it just a bit. But the city's delivering 90% of it. And yet, yes, New York really toughened me. I'm telling you that it created for me the work culture of how you work. How you interface with your own staff, with the people you have. We were all the same age. We were all in our 20s. So there was very little hierarchy. But it's very important when we're doing weekly television to have everybody come in on that deadline. Every week. The show was on Saturday. We had to have all the editing finished by Friday noon, which meant everybody had to know their place. Yeah. And yet, since although I was host and producer, there was no time to throw weight around. You just went out on the streets with your team. You learned how to wait. You learned how to put on your makeup sometimes in the rear view mirror of the car. It was hot. It was hot and humid. There's a lot of work ethic that I developed working in New York. But as they say, Madhu, you make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Really.
So, Didi, I remember you telling me once that, you were just talking about, this innate sense of aesthetics also that you developed, what you were born with, and also New York City. You told a certain ex-first lady also to move so that she has better light on her, right?
Yes.
Would you like to share that?
Oh gosh, this was during the Festival of India time, where my company was the official the sort of chronicler for Doordarshan. So Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis had co-authored a book with the current Chief Minister of Orissa, Navneen Patnaik, who was then living in New York, and he had not yet entered politics. So it was called the Ayurvedic Healing Plants of India. So it was one of the book events of the Festival of India. And we went to this very, very exclusive, very small cocktail of about 50 people. As always, my team, the scruffy team, a heavy cameraman carrying a heavy. We all had to. I had to always teach them how to dress right for certain occasions. Otherwise, they would just be
Right.
in their regular work schedule. This was very formal, bow tie or tie. So
Yeah.
we go in and Mrs. Kennedy Onassis and Naveen Patnaik are there greeting us. They knew we were coming as part of India Media, and they had kept some time aside for us. I finished my interview with Naveen Patnaik, very, very beautifully spoken. And then the former First Lady comes, and I find that with a gorgeous black short hair, somehow the light was falling in a very unflattering way. And I said, Mrs. Onassis, can I move you, please? And I looked around and I said, she said, yeah, okay, where would you want me to, go?
Right.
She was supposed to be seated, but then I saw this gorgeous contemporary painting on the wall, and I said, would you mind standing? And so my cameraman, Chris, nudges me and said, you know who you're telling to stand? She's supposed to sit. I said, no. I said, I said, no, chup karo, bhai. Just let me try this. She was so sweet. I mean, it was only an 8-9 minute interview, but she said, is this right? And I said, okay, Chris, go ahead, frame it. It was right. It was just right for her to stand. And I think she understood. I mean, she knows media. She was very, very polite. I've done that with so many people, Madhu. I've done it with Richard Avedon. I've done it with, I've done it with so many people. But I think they understand that you want to get the best frame. People who understand will just get it.
Absolutely.
Very few people have really thrown, huge tantrums and fits. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, Anita Didi, I just also wanted to, before we come to, your family, growing up years and all that, I thought we'd sort of reverse the chronology. And I wanted to ask you also, you have, you call yourself a contemporary classicist, and you revived the Ariyar Seve, which is an ancient form of performative worship. And at the same time, you also birthed the other festival, which was like one of India's most, if not the most definitive and avant-garde festival for the performing arts and films. So there's this balance of the extremes that you personify, and it reflects in your dance too. So, when you were talking about hailing that cab in New York and somebody whistling, I remember there was a choreography that you also made around that. What was it called?
Yes, it was called Gesture Language, and I set it to Steve Reich's music of just claps.
Oh, okay.
And I would come in and I would this would be one of the gestures, that would be leaning this. So that's the hailing cab. So I remember using that. For me, it was New York energy.
Yeah.
It was also the remnants of my few flamenco classes I took with these amazingly strong women.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine taking flamenco with these mature women with big busts, big rounded hips, and they teach you to be completely opposite of what you're supposed to be in Bharatanatyam class, right? In classical dance class, you stand maybe, but then you are told you're a vehicle, you are the vehicle through which you tell the stories, you suggest this. Here there was nothing. It's like, come on, let's go. And it was so different, it was so fabulous that I was learning from mature women. But to come back to your question about, the ritual and revival and the other festival, I've never thought of these things that I've done as opposites. Other people have sort of said, oh, you suddenly go traditional, suddenly go modern. But I was brought up to sort of look at everything. I was brought up with very progressive parents who were very, very particular about telling us who we are. And it was my mother who said that your geography is your history, where you are, where do you come from? You have to know that when you go out into the world. Otherwise, you'll just very easily vacillate and become half this and quarter that and 10% this and 40% that. But if you have something strong that is rooted, then you can absorb anything. So I think the idea of being sort of somehow doing something ancient and then somehow doing something modern has been for me extremely natural, as well as, not always wanting to be on stage. to be sort of a catalyst, to be like an enabler, to be like a change maker. Because I've seen it, I've seen my parents be that in their lives. I've seen family histories be that in the stories that I have inherited. So, so I've never set out in a sense to pioneer things, but I've been in a position where I've started many things. And I remember my father telling me, whatever you do, try to be the first one on the moon because nobody remembers the name of the second. You know?
So true.
But it's not all, yeah. So it's not always that life gives you the chance also. You know, life sometimes doesn't give you the opportunity to make those. So I really, you know, acknowledge my privilege in being able to, you know, start, birth, encourage, mentor, support, produce, commission, and direct. And I continue to do that. I think that energy comes from my years in New York. It's that can do. You know, no matter what. Just, because in New York, Madhu, nobody cares about your last name. Because and nobody cares about your father, your mother, uncle. Nobody cares about your bank balance. Really, they want to know what do you bring to the table.
Right.
What
and
do
you have
bring
said
to
that,
the
Didi. One quote of yours that keeps popping up always is when you said, we're not known by our bank balances or who our parents are. It is ultimately we who have to prove ourselves. And we should be a brand ourselves. Each of us is unique. You said that. And I just want to sort of reset for people who have come in. Some more people have joined us. I'm in conversation with Dr. Anita Ratnam, performer par excellence, who's been a broadcaster, she's a curator, scholar, cultural activist, and we are talking about her years, her travel and her years in New York City, which shaped her thinking, her aesthetic, and also New York is almost like that island where she launched her 1,000 ships, which some are still sailing, and some have, you know, docked in India, but are sort of reaching out all over, like her various babies in a sense, apart from Arya and Shriman, which are Nartaki, the first ever directly, even before the government of India thought of bringing one or apex bodies, she was the first one to bring a directory of artists for companies. And then also Nartaki.com became in 2000 the first ever dance portal out of India, isn't it, Didi? And one of the largest in Asia?
Yeah, I think, Madhu, you know, all these initiatives somehow, technology, dance, stage, media, speaking, writing, choreography, performance. I think it's all about life's design, you know, and we went back to talk about New York City being just a set designer's dream. I remember learning about choreography, not from any book, not from any course. I'm going to come back to talking about how valuable the course you're offering is. But my generation had to learn by watching, by listening, by reading. I remember watching the asymmetry and the chance choreography of Merce Cunningham. Then I watched Martha Graham's company. I watched Paul Taylor's. I watched Twyla Tharp. I watched Vareshnikov's sort of new attempts at modern ballet. And, you know, so many things in which I understood. I mean, I didn't understand, but I was beginning to receive which side of the stage when you enter creates better impact. You know, these are not things that our gurus teach us. You know, which diagonal is the eye registering more? What happens downstage and what happens upstage? And you don't balance one dancer with another one dancer. You always work with asymmetry. How much more interesting asymmetry is. How in the verticality of mostly Indian dance, how horizontality is also so interesting. You know, so what do you do with space? What do you do? And I only got it by watching. I watched and watched and watched, and that's how I learned. And I keep thinking, oh my God, how lucky are this generation to have so much offered, not just dance research, not just dance talks, but choreography course like yours, in which, you know, there's so much in what you offer in production design, you know, between costume, stage, and lighting design. I mean, all this I
Music.
had to learn by just watching and asking and doing. And I think I'm still learning. I'm still learning. If this course
Yes.
was available to me 30 years ago, I would have like taken it. But now you put me
Right, right.
on a jury. But what I wanted to say is, I think once your eye gets activated as a choreographer and you're looking at
Right.
everything in life as some kind of a design, as some kind of a grand design, then I think then you absorb events and incidents. I remember I lived in New York in the 10 years where it was most dangerous. I mean, crime was at its highest. I
Yes.
remember I've been mugged at least 4 or 5 times. My car has been broken into and my stereo
Oh
stolen
gosh.
at least 8, 9 times.
Hmm.
So, and you know, the short distance between my apartment and my studio, it was quite dangerous because there were a lot of drug addicts, lot of drunk people lying on the street. It would stink. And sometimes I would finish after midnight editing,
Right.
and I would need to have people walk me home because I was not. It was only 7 blocks, but
Wow.
I knew how to start crossing the street like a grid. You know, I see somebody, I would cross the street,
Right,
walk, and
right.
cross the street again and walk. And you think of it almost like a choreography design, you know, like a grid. You would finally get
Absolutely.
home
Yes.
in double the time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you think about it. You know, even when I was attacked on Indian Independence Day, I think back of it and said, my God, it was like some great Kurukshetra battle. You know,
Wow.
like
Wow.
it was in Indian Independence Day parade, August of 1984, a huge political ferment in India. I was always the MC for the parade, and suddenly the anti-India protesters broke through the police cordon, smashed all the floats, jumped onto the
Wow.
podium, smashed half the podium, grabbed my hair. Two of them grabbed my hair, pulled my hair back because I was the MC. So I was like, for them, the India emblem. One had taken a huge stick, I think, to just hit me. I mean, literally, Madhu, can you think? You can't make this up. You can't make this up. And then suddenly, 8
No.
people jump onto the podium with the scream, Jai Swaminarayan. And it was the Swaminarayan group who were the volunteers.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, they just jumped and they like rescued me. I mean,
Right.
this is like real life.
I know it's very cinematic. It's very
It
cinematic, but it
is.
actually happened, and like you said, it can only happen in New York, maybe,
It can
right? So,
only happen in New York. You know,
right,
great
right.
street performers in the subways, fabulous musicians on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the
yeah,
range of
yeah,
talent
yeah,
is so phenomenal. And
yeah.
one thing I learned, you
Absolutely.
know, Madhu, when I said you are who you are, I never ever in the US, if you have the looks and the brains and the articulation and the speech and the demeanor and the character, you're actually applauded. You're actually praised.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like in India, people are always trying to devalue a woman with looks and brains and character and assets. It's, you know, here we are still trying to pull women down. And I really, I get furious with that.
Yes. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
women
Absolutely.
and men, but I get even more irritated when women do this. But
Right.
yeah, coming back to New York just really shaped my work ethic. Really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Didi, there's so many parallels when you speak, and I think so much of Dr. Maya Rao, because when you're talking about your roots, to sort of acknowledge them before you do anything else, she would always say, this is, she said, for me, when you choose your path, initially even if in a plane has to sort of go on the ground for some time, build up wind, and then take off. She would say that, and also about not walking with blinkers on. So when the young 16-year-old walked into this institute to study choreography or Kathak, she said, please don't have blinkers on, keep your eyes open. And you talk about
Yeah.
developing that eye, and and like you said, that there are these, like our course at the Natya Institute of Kathak and Choreography is sort of created to help you, explore and find your own signature. And from here, I'd like to come to your original thought process. You have mentioned several times about, wanting to explore your own creative spirit and to birth your own ideology. And I remember, a quote of Lee Iacocca, at least when I was studying in college, he used to be like the most quoted man ever, and he kind of lived up to all these controversial things. But one of the nicest quotes he said was like, he said that specialization is knowing more and more about less and less.
Ah,
And you remember that? And so I wanted to ask you, somehow when one has spent so many times, so you move from your life as a broadcaster, always constantly balancing family, and then as a choreographer, scholar, researcher, curator here, so many people as they get on in years, or if they're mid-career, kind of become reductive, they don't they? So in a sense that everyone gets into their own echo chambers, and there's not enough cross illumination. But you have always believed in that about collaborating, and your interests are not just limited to dance and dance research. There's fashion, there's technology, there's tennis, so much more. How does that shape your artistic persona?
I think because all these other loves that I have, and I love them passionately when I'm at them,
Right.
sports is something my tennis coach, Vijay Amritraj, and I started learning tennis together. And my tennis coach told my mother that he could make me India's champion because had the makings of a very good tennis player. I
Right.
played for my
Yes.
university. But I had to make a choice. I mean, was I going to go out there at 4:30 in the morning, run my 8 kilometers behind my mother's car for fitness, and then, play tennis and then have a life touring? Yeah. And dance was, for my mother, I think at that time, less risky. She would have to travel with me, and and my father's company, the family business, was growing. My mother was needed. They were the poster boy and poster girl for poster couple for the family business. They were entertaining everyone. So in a sense, my mother said, I don't think you can
Right.
give up your life for tennis. But
Yes.
she did say one thing, that in sports you learn how to win and lose very gracefully, and you have
Right.
to learn
Right.
both. And
Wow.
dance and the performing arts do not teach you that.
Hmm.
You get very
Yep.
obsessed with the image in the mirror, and your ego might take, just go to balloon size. And if somebody pricks it, you won't be able to take it. So always think, balance your life with sports, balance your life with something that you can win or lose, because that spirit of competition is very healthy, because you can't win all the time in
Mm-hmm.
life. It's not possible, you
True.
know
True. True. True.
and another
Yeah.
very valuable lesson that was told to me by Barbara Walters, who was then the star celebrity interviewer for ABC, and she would always do for many many years the Academy Award
Mm.
the pre Academy Award interview. So when I went to meet her at her office at ABC Studios, it was just a few blocks from my television studio, and I was so relieved to see that her desk was very messy, as messy as mine, you know, filled with notes and all that. So even though she was such a star, but she said something. She said, when you uh, end your day, look at that image in the mirror as you're washing your face at the end of the day, and ask self, somewhere out there, there's someone who is better than me, smarter than me, luckier than me, more beautiful than me, uh, more successful than me, more wealthier than me, has made it much further than me. Yes, there's somebody out there. But today, I've tried to be the best that I can be,
Mm.
and that should
Wow.
be enough. And that should be enough.
Very strong.
Yeah. So
Fabulous.
I think that when you talk about people, as we grow older, we become reductive, we sort of retreat into a kind of a cocoon. We either retreat, especially in the dance community, I can say that we retreat into a kind of a family cocoon where we are hearing of constant praise from either,
Yeah.
our partners and spouses and family. And we are not really open for objective critical feedback, objective.
Mm. Right,
And
right,
we take
right.
it personally. We don't look at it as something that we can grow from. I still remember from well-known critics like Leela Venkatraman and Shanta Gokhale, both of whom I respect, that there was some performances they did not like of mine. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't. So I did not get a good review. I got, in fact, a bad review. But everybody else was very perturbed, and I said, "It's okay. I'm going to call up and find out what it was that they didn't like, because I am secure that at that point I put out what I thought was right. They were not convinced,
Right.
and it's one review. It's one review. Unlike in New York, a New York Times review can make or break you. Literally,
Yes.
a New York
Yes.
Times dance review can make or break you. I know about the palpitations that Nityagram had before they got that review. I know about
Right.
fabulous Broadway shows where they would wait at 2 a.m. and go and wait for the New York Times review and look at it and open the arts pages and whew, okay, our show doesn't have to close.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't. Yeah, our reviewers in India don't have that power. They can
Right.
just say what they
Right.
have to say. But you have to, but I feel by not saying, what does she know? She knows nothing, which is usually the kind of response that many diva dancers will get. I'm like
Yes.
constantly trying to say, I'm still a student. I still want to learn. I'm still learning choreography, Madhu. I wish I could be a student in your class and not one of, you know, guest faculty. And I don't know who's watching, but I really urge you to look closer at this choreography course. There's so much that it offers. It really makes you a much better artist when you come out of it. Uh, I think, Madhu, I think for us, for me, now I've finished 6 decades of my life, and I'm in the 7th decade of my life. And in New York, my friends can say, "Do you still perform?" Yes, because even for me, a conversation like this is like a performance, isn't it, Madhu? We are trying to
Absolutely.
organize our thoughts. We are trying to have a choreography in the way our conversation is flowing. We're trying to get our ideas out in a coherent way. So I don't think we should just say performance is when you get on stage. I think that
Right.
now there is a chance for us, it doesn't matter through reels and videos and posts and everything. If we look at ourselves as a brand and just look at what do we want that image to say about us? How
Yeah.
much of
Yeah.
ourselves do we wish to share? This is actually a great time, to really share other
Absolutely.
sides of ourselves, which is why I've just
Yeah.
left in. Yeah, absolutely. And as much as we all mourn about what we've lost, it's a time for us to really look at what can we learn from it. And I think
Yes. Yes.
that's really what a seeker or a student is always looking for. How we could continue to pour nuggets of information into this sort of crucible that is New York, which is
Right.
called either a melting pot or a salad bowl. But it's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
difficult, Madhu, because as you grow older, Picasso said something very beautiful, right? We see today with the eyes of yesterday, which means
Yesterday.
that
Yeah.
when we come into an auditorium or we go to a museum or we go to watch something, but we already come with something else. It's very
Right.
different, very
Right.
difficult to have fresh eyes, to have the eyes of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
baby. We try, right? Every time we start a new project, we
Yeah.
try to start from a blank slate. But there are certain essences and certain inspirations and certain strands that automatically come. We reach for things. And as
Okay.
maybe that's what's called a choreographer's motive. Maybe that's what's called a choreographer's motive. There's a through line, something that sort of appears in each of the works that is kind of
Right. Right.
recognizable.
Right.
So
And
I
that
think,
starts from the premise setting, as you said. Sorry. Sorry.
yeah,
Go on.
yeah, you're right. So I think that I think these are things that I wish I kept a better diary. I used to keep a diary, but I think writing down notes,
Right.
having a diary is very valuable, you know, especially for creative people when they
Right.
travel
Right.
and they listen or they read something and they take notes or they, you know, what I've become, I think, because of New York is I've become quite a good photographer, you know, because the city,
Right.
even from my digital phone, I've taken some really good photographs, and I think it's the framing, you know, it's a kind of a design framing that the city is very photogenic, so it gives you that. But I think it's that it's like how much of an object that it is upstage and how much is downstage.
Right. And right now, you and I don't like the Instagram aesthetic, which just cuts everything into half, very
Yeah,
unflattering.
nobody gets to see my jewelry or my
On
papa sari.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Everything's reduced to horizontality via the verticality in a sense. So,
yes.
Anita Didi, I'll just open this out to questions. Everybody, thank you so much for listening in. I had turned the comments off because it was hiding Anita Didi, and Didi, at times you're getting pixelated a little bit.
You're also getting
I don't know
pixelated.
why
So
that is.
I was thinking
Yeah?
because we had a heavy
Okay.
thunderstorm now. We had a huge thunderstorm now,
Oh, okay.
which sort of
Okay.
has just ended. So maybe there was
Right.
something there. Yeah,
Yeah. You're kind of back now, but I
yeah.
could hear you clearly through it all. So,
Okay.
everybody in the audience, I'm in conversation with Dr. Anita Ratnam. You already know that. So, if you have questions, then please put them down here in the comments box. I opened it up now because it was hiding her face, and I just thought it was most unflattering, so I'd taken it off for a bit. Comments, questions are most welcome at this point. We have quite a few artists, non-artists in the audience. Hello, everyone. Yeah. If there are any
Yeah.
questions,
Well,
please put them
Well,
down.
yeah, my
Anita, did you
company
say?
in the US was called the Bombay Broadcasting Network, and I had two shows. One was called Cinema, which was all about Indian movies, which I had to learn again, where I had to learn
Right.
about Hindi cinema. And I had another show called Indigo, The Colors of India. It was on a Saturday morning, Madhu, and it was right in
Mm,
Rahu Kal, 9 to 10:30
wow.
on a Saturday, right?
Huh?
For whatever it was a Saturday 9 to 10:30, the start of a weekend, and it was it was a coast to coast 6 city syndicated TV show that many people woke up to, and it was so successful. I remember
Right.
that on one of my trips when I returned and landed at JFK, the immigration person looked at me and said, "You're the one from the television program, right? Oh my God, that
Oh,
Parveen Bab
wow.
and yeah, that Parveen Babi and Zeenat Aman, man, they are gorgeous."
I know. Wow.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so ask me anything if
So,
you have a question. I don't know that there. I think there's just
yeah,
comments
I don't
coming.
know. Yeah, they're just comments coming. People are enjoying it. Some of them are saying they also lived in New York and can resonate. Questions, please. We'd be very happy to have some questions as well. And
Yeah,
Ramya, if you're in the audience, you could probably also, uh, add the Nartaki and STEM Dance Company websites if people want to go and look it up after this. Of course, this talk will be available on IGTV post, but if there are
yes.
any questions at the moment, uh, yes. So this is Shruti Mohan who says, do tell us about your most memorable, happiest moment as a performer, Anita ji.
Wow, Shruti Mohan, she's from Dallas or Austin in Texas. I don't know about the happiest moment. I think that as a performer, we try to touch these moments. Um, and, you know, there have been several moments, of course. I've had such a long life. I've had people weep, and I've had people who actually thought that I was Andal and fell at my feet. I've had I've had people. I did a work called Seven Graces based on the Tibetan goddess Tara about 15 years ago, and I had a lot of monks in New York at the Rubin Museum come and bless me after that show. Um, I've had some amazing experiences with A Million Sitas. Whenever I've traveled, I've had people just weep and weep and weep at the end of that show, wherever I've gone. Um, yeah, I don't know if I can say the happiest, but I do know that I have never cancelled a performance. I've hurt my toe, I've broken my toe, I've bandaged my toe, I changed my choreography to balance on, or to put the weight on something else. I was at the Royal Festival Hall in Purcell, at the Purcell Room, and I've never cancelled it because I've created a style, an organic style of movement that comes from my body. So I was able to actually choreograph or readjust and tweak movements to actually make it work for me, to slow it down. So I think those were teaching moments. Those were learning lessons, because accidents happen, freak accidents happen. Yeah, so I've had many happy moments. I've had many, like, I would say, lonely moments. I think after you finish a performance, if you're not in India with family and loved ones, I think going back to that green room or going back to your hotel room is that moment of solitude. You've been at an after party, you've done everything, and then you go back to the solitude. You can't sleep because all your chakras are buzzing, and even if you've
Adrenaline
had,
high.
yeah, and even if you've had, your favorite red wine or whatever, you're not able to wind down. And then your
Right.
thoughts are swirling about life and, what you could have done, what you should have done, what you should not have done. I think life swirls at you, not just the performance. Those are moments in which, other, other impulses, other memories. So it's not just about dance for me. It's never always been just about that. Yes, you do feel that, okay, you nailed this portion, you could have done better here, but I don't obsess about it,
Right.
because you finish it, you've offered it, and you've stepped back. That's it. There's no point obsessing about, uh, something. There will be another chance, and that's, I think, the power and the vulnerability of live performance.
Right. So as you're saying, Didi, I think there are more momentous and memorable performances. We can't really pin it down to happy. So Shruti and quite a few others are all talking about your various performances that they loved. Million Sitas at the Kanakavalli, New York
Yeah.
City, from the Horse's Mouth show, etc. And we have Natya Vinay with the question. He says, what is your creative process in designing the sets for your shows?
Well, quite honestly, Vinay, in India, we don't have too much of a luxury to dream very big. The reason being is we don't own our own spaces, I mean, formal performing spaces. And then we are not able to go in 48 hours before to really set up and to have a full tech, because, the theaters that we like are exorbitantly expensive. So what I like to do is, I don't like to have huge sets. I like to work with lights. I do what I call lots of props, movable set, that's what I call it, movable props. And I like to work with light design. And I like to work with choreography and dance design. So it's light design, dance design, choreography. And for me, the music and the costumes are also co-performers, which is why I spend a lot of time and energy in creating all those, the soundscape, creating a color palette. Yeah, so I would say that would really be my creative process, and not really in terms of a set.
Yeah. We have Vijisha here saying she was in the organizing team, and your rehearsal itself made my world stop for a moment. Thanks for that,
Okay.
Vijisha.
Thank you.
Would you like to ask a question, or thank you for sharing that? Didi, would you want to respond to that? I don't know
I
which
don't know
rehearsal
which,
she's talking about.
yeah, I don't know which rehearsal she's talking about and where. So,
Right. I think at Million Sitas at Kanakavalli, she says. Okay, okay.
okay. All
Yes.
right. Okay. That
All
was, in a
right.
sense, the last
Okay.
performance before the lockdown. Yeah, before the first lockdown.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Didi, these are very trying and humbling times where all of us have sort of weathered the same storm, but in very, very different boats, right? Some boats have got holes in them already, and you have always said, I remember this quote of yours where you said that I come from a family of Renaissance women. I have it in me to explore, experiment, and take risks. And I think also what you don't mention is also to take a lot of flack and from life and very gracefully just put your pallu on and move on, like our equivalent to rubbing the dust off when you fall. So, I just like that first incident I shared about you, almost literally waiting to finish the interview with Shabana before your
Yeah.
water broke and you had to be rushed to hospital.
Yes.
There have been so many other I remember when Auntie passed away, you were performing and you got to know after you finished that she had passed on, or if I'm not mistaken, and so many very difficult moments. And as we know as performers that nobody cares in the audience as when you get on stage, whether you had a breakup, someone passed away, nothing. How do you build your strength and resilience? I mean, can't put everything down to great genes. I mean, you have done that, and I know for me, you have fortified me in so many ways, and many others, I'm sure. So, would you like to share that? I think people want to listen to some stories
Yeah.
of strength.
Well, I'm going to tell you that I come from a family of women who've all been banyan trees for others in their lives. And I'm a firstborn, and I was expected to be a male child, the firstborn of in 4 generations. Well, there I appeared, and all the pujas that was scheduled in all the temples were cancelled. So I remember being old enough when I was told this, and I listened to it.
Wow.
I said, okay, the pujas were cancelled. That's okay. I'm going to make my life, unforgettable. But I think one of the things that has borne me in good stead, Madhu, is stubbornness. Stubbornness in a
Hmm.
positive way. And also the emotion of anger. The emotion of anger is a very active energy. We are told as women, don't be angry. But I would say use anger. Stay angry, but use it in a
Yes.
constructive way. Use the fire and use the momentum that anger gives you to channel it into something that you can do productively. So I think
Right,
stubbornness,
right.
a kind of a
Absolutely.
simmering anger with a lot of things that have happened in my life. I tried marriage once, twice, it didn't work. I mean, I was married by an astrological thing. Then I had a love marriage, but I've got two great children. So how am I going to be bitter about that? They're difficult kids, but they're great kids, and they took a lot of time to get used to the fact that I was not going to be like a regular mother. I didn't go to a regular office. I didn't dress like a regular mother. In fact, my son would tell me, please don't come to school. You dress very oddly. Until he came to understand who I was. So, but it came
Right.
only because I set my boundary. Madhu, you can't be a self starter. You can't be somebody who has pioneered so many things without being ready to attract to. You are a human dartboard. I'm a human walking dartboard.
Yeah.
People are willing to just throw their darts at me because they feel that I'm representing something, whatever they think in their mind.
Hmm.
If I'm
Right.
representing privilege, I'm representing class, I'm representing whatever it is in their mind. They've made up the mythology, not me,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And
Right.
people
Right.
listening, I don't believe in my mythology. I mean, I don't care if I'm busy digitizing my entire body of work. And I myself, I'm astounded with the amount of press I have. But it just remains that, it'll be
Hmm.
digitized, it'll be archived, it'll be shared. But I don't buy into my mythology. For me, I'm still learning. And I've been bullied, I've been trolled, I've been accused, I've lost so many good friends. But what do you do, when you say that nothing is forever? I mean, Madhu, you and I know that marriage has not been forever. And so there are some toxic relationships that have to
Right.
be cut. That's it. It's
Yes.
time to go. And one thing that the pandemic has taught me is like, just let go. Let
Yeah.
go. Let go. If this is not to be, let it be. The fewer things we have, the fewer things we cherish, the fewer friendships we have, the fewer people we call close, that's enough.
True.
I'm a very private person. Nobody really knows all of me. And maybe that's also by choice. I reveal little by little by little by little, but also because of I've been hurt very deeply. So maybe there's also a kernel of me, like I put a kavacham around my heart. That's quite possible. My life coach tells me that you've got to open your heart a bit. And I'm saying, I'm actually quite fine. I'm quite happy being a singleton. And I look around and I'm saying, I'm really quite happy to be where I am right now. But it takes a lot of stubborn resilience, Madhu. It takes a lot of, because, when you are attacked, nobody is coming to your aid. Nobody is standing up to trolls. I mean, there are still people on Instagram ghosting, I think there are women who just come and have the meanest comments, it comes out of nowhere. You just hit delete. You don't even bother, And I think after a while, they just shut up. They exhaust themselves because they're not getting a reaction. They just exhaust themselves. But I can't stop people from hurling whatever they choose to hurl. I always say, do something constructive rather than, why are you trying to bring somebody else down? Just, try to lift somebody else up. Yeah. Oh, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of experience. It takes a lot of a kind of a wisdom, which I think you pull in from the deepest recesses of you. I don't know if I missed my mother when I got my national award though, because she really wanted to be in Rashtrapati Bhavan and to be present. When I got my award, you're lucky that your mother was there with when you got yours. But there are moments. There are moments that I feel. Yeah, when both my parents passed, I was on stage.
I completely understand. Yeah.
I was on stage when both my parents passed, because they always said, honor a commitment. You're given a commitment. It's a public word. You can always grieve. There's always time to grieve. So I was on stage on both occasions, and I think I honored their memory by completing what I needed to do. Yeah.
True. Absolutely, Didi. I get that completely. There are so many parallels, and you're talking about all these trolls and attacks on you. I had this vision of this very Dalist set, and you wearing very comfortable shoes, and your Issey Miyake, your your Lululemon comfy tights and a gorgeous Issey Miyake shrug, and running across the crossfire with some fabulous world music and Nadaswaram playing. So, that's you. You embody diverse experiences. You're the fashionista, you're bold, and always so graceful. We'll take one last question. Everybody's, there are a lot of compliments, great conversation. That's Anita, and about your shows. There's only one question. I don't know if you want to take it at this point, because I think you kind of answered it earlier. This is Vidisha. She says, your storytelling talent is something very beautiful. Do you often tell stories to your kids? Do you mean her children or when she's taking storytelling workshops? That's, Didi, would you like to take that?
My kids are not kids anymore, and they don't want to listen to my stories. My kids are in their 30s, but when they were young, they adored stories. They grew up listening to stories that their grandmother told them, their great-grandmother told them, their grandfather told them, because I grew up listening to stories. So reading has been a very big part of our family's culture. So both my children read voraciously. I'm really grateful for that. I told them they will never be alone. If they have a book, as a companion, and they can spend time with a book and music. Uh, Storytelling for children, I don't do it as much as I think I should. I'm getting so many requests now for doing storytelling sessions for young kids between ages 4 to 8. No, I'm not a part of a storytelling group, or I don't do it often enough, but maybe I should.
Yes. So much, so many things that you are doing and want to do, Didi, and birthing platforms also for other people too. I think we've already come to an hour because we will lose our recording if we don't stop now. And I
Correct.
think we need to have part two of the conversation.
Yes,
Um, to
we
you need
need
to do
to.
part two to even we haven't gone into mentorship, we haven't gone into the wonderful OTT platforms you birthed for people to share their work. I was listening to this
We'll do
interview
it
of
next
Nilesh
time.
Mishra who said yes, yes. He was saying that, when he did a half-hour interview, he thought it was too long, and then people wrote to him and said, you know what, we need part two and three. When is that going to happen? So I think we are going to sort of break a rule now and have part two somewhere midweek if you're free, because
We'll
this
do
is
that.
just too good to just let go. Yeah. So then we'll announce it, and also everybody out there, I'm going to have to end in 1 minute, otherwise we lose this valuable recording. And Anita Didi has reached 10K without resorting to any of the new age gimmickry, nothing, just by being herself on Instagram. So please, all of those who have not yet followed her, do that, and do follow the Natya Institute page too, and Nartaki, and let's grow this community. Anita Didi,
Yes.
thank you so much. I mean, my head is buzzing with questions, and I
We'll
think
do
we
it
have to
again.
do part two.
We'll do part
We'll
two.
do it
Okay.
again. Yes.
Thank you all
Thank you so
for
much.
tuning in. Bye, Madhu, and thank you all. Be safe, and I'll see you soon, Madhu. Bye.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining us. Bye bye. Good night.